NSA front after meeting yesterday with the panel of his advisors. The president asked to look into what NSA was up to. The White House did a total flip. They did what I have been pushing for. They released the panel's entire report, and it is brutal. It says that the NSA was way overstepping its bounds, that this collection of massive data on phone calls has to stop, and instead the phone companies keep those records, and NSA can only get those records when they go to a judge, go to a court, and show evidence that there's some reason why they need to pry into our phone records. That is a big effing deal, as Joe Biden would say. On all that's happening, we want your calls, we want your comments, 866-55-PRESS, or you can reach us on Twitter at BP Show, on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. Let's get right into it.
This
morning
is the Bill Press Show.
Don't look at me. Your hair's a bit frizzy today.
Oh, you should pick that up.
Oh, you're such a dork. Loser. Here, let me help you with that. Oops.
Every day, kids witness bullying.
Oh, look. Your crush is looking at you.
Poor you.
They want to help, but don't know how.
See, no one here's gonna help you, because no one
Teach your
likes you.
kids how to be more than a bystander. Visit stopbullying.gov.
If you drive buzzed, it could cost you around $10,000. You'll face major legal fees, major fines, and steep insurance penalties. You could lose everything. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving.
When some people struggle with their mortgage payments, they become frozen, petrified. Not knowing what to do, they do nothing. But the people who take action are far more likely to get the most positive outcome. Making home affordable is a free government program. Call now to talk one-on-one with a housing expert about the options that are right for you. Real help, real answers, right now.
Here at the GED Pep Talk Center, we have pep talkers standing by to get you motivated for your GED diploma. Text the name Terry to 69222 for a sympathetic pep talk.
You show people what you really are.
Or for a gentle pep talk, text the name Deborah.
You know you're going to make people very proud of you.
And if that's not enough, text the name Danny for an extreme pep talk.
Prove everyone wrong. Show them you're the boss.
Get your GED pep talk and find free GED classes. Text the name of the person you want a pep talk from to 69222.
Did you see the world differently? Did you celebrate the victory?
So today, I state clearly and with conviction America's commitment to seek the peace and security of a world without nuclear weapons.
Did you stand up against our greatest threat? Change the world.
around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
The Fed says we're going to taper back our stimulus program, and the Dow explodes, up almost 300 points. Obamanomics is working. Hey, good morning, everybody. What do you say? It is Thursday, December 19. Here we go. Good to see you today. Our morning town hall starts right now. Continues for the next 3 hours here. From the Bill Press Show and our studio on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C. President leaves town tomorrow. The House is already out of town. The Senate voted on the budget yesterday. They'll be out of town today, but we're still here. We're still here to keep our eye on all the big news of the day from our nation's capital, from around the country, from around the globe. We'll tell you about it and open up the phones, open up the social media sites so you can tell us what it all means to you, because we know you follow these issues very, very carefully. Otherwise, you wouldn't be watching. You wouldn't be listening. Great to see you today. Don't forget, we are your local progressive talk radio show every morning on your local progressive talk radio station. And if you got one, be glad you got one, and support it. Support the station and all the sponsors you hear on the program. They make it worthwhile for us to be together every morning. As a little extra feature, we are also shown on video on the Free Speech TV, simulcast on Free Speech TV. It's the word I was looking for. And you can find us there. If you got a satellite dish, just go to DirecTV, of course, or the Dish Network. And then if you want to watch on the smaller screen, your iPhone, your laptop, your iPad, or whatever, you can do so on our video stream, which booms out all around the globe. Members of 133 different countries watching every day to TawkrTV. That's youtube.com/TawkrTV. And, of course, the reason they watch is not for me. It's to see the team here. Yes, members of the team, Peter Ogburn.
Hi there.
And Elisa Murphy.
Good morning.
Good morning. Alicia Cruz, also team leader there on the phones, waiting to take your calls at 866-55-PRESS. And Cyprian Balding is keeping us looking good on the video stream and on Free Speech TV, the videographer, switching up the 4 cameras as we go along. I don't know how he does it, but he decides who looks good at any particular time. It's usually not me. And
he can never get my good side.
Well, I think maybe there is not one.
Assuming I have a good side, yeah. Cyprian put up the back of my head, so that's the good side. Thanks, Sip.
Hey, we are we're still in mourning over the Mega Millions. Yeah, the mourning in 2 senses. Number one, that there is a winner, so it doesn't just keep going and building and building. And number two, that the winner is not one of us. Yeah. At least that is not me.
Right.
A winner in Georgia and a winner in California. They will split, of course, the $636 million prize. And the woman in Georgia is going to take, the winner in Georgia is going to take cash, I understand, which still, after paying taxes, she still ends up with about
170 or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's
okay money.
It's okay
It's okay money.
Exactly. You could get by on a year with that. And the head of the Georgia Lottery tells us how she picked the winning numbers.
They were a combination of family birthdays, and her family's lucky number 7.
Yeah. Boy, you really got to reach for that one. The lucky number, 7.
Yeah.
How creative.
Right.
You know what? It makes me start to wonder, because I just always do the quick pick.
Oh, see.
I let the machine pick my numbers.
I don't ever play the lottery, but if I did, I would like to think that if I won, I'd want to win it on numbers that I choose. Call me a purist.
Do you go birthdays?
Kids' birthdays. Anniversaries.
That's so lame.
Well, it wasn't lame for one person.
That's true. But I mean, I think you could also. I'd like to see a study about how many people win by quick pick or how many win by picking their own numbers.
It's a pretty small pool to choose from for people who've won the lottery.
That's
so
true.
I think the data's out there.
I may not spend another $1 until I find that out. I'm going to hold back.
Yeah.
I'll show them.
Let's really play the odds on the lottery.
Meanwhile, think about it. The woman, the store owner in Georgia and the store owner in San Jose, just for selling that ticket, right? They picked up a cool $1 million. And the man who owns the store, the little Jenny's gift store, in the Vietnamese section of San Jose, California, he has owned that store for 4 months only.
Lucky bastard.
Right? Store's been around.
Talk about someone who won the lottery.
Decades. Yeah, and he won $1 million. He's a happy camper.
Today, very good day. I'm so excited because I win $1 million too.
That dude is the best. That dude is the best.
I'd be laughing too, man.
Good.
He's kind of saying, I won $1 million and you didn't.
I've been on the job for 4 months.
I know.
Give me my $1 million.
I said that last night. That other people had owned the store for like 10, 15, 20 years. They never won. He had 4 months, man.
Boom.
Yep.
Oh, man.
Oh, boy. Hey, we rounded up a couple of guests who we couldn't find earlier in the week. David Jackson from USA Today is going to join us today, we think. Senator Sherrod Brown from Ohio. We couldn't find the other. He is going to join us today, we think.
Yeah.
And then we'll have a couple of reporters in from Politico and Think Progress. And big news, a big switcheroo yesterday from the White House on the NSA report. But first,
this is the Full Court Press.
Other headlines today. Whole Foods will be taking Chobani yogurt off its shelves in 2014. Whole Foods has decided to make room for non-genetically modified foods and organic brands instead. Whole Foods will now require labels on all genetically modified foods or GMOs by 2018, and Chobani to date does not carry this label. 82% of Americans think GMO foods should be labeled.
I don't care what Whole Foods does. I have my Chobani.
Your genetically modified yogurt, huh?
I have I didn't know it was GMO, but I love it. I have a Chobani, as you know. Maybe you see me sneaking it in here between commercial breaks every morning. And if I can't, I never buy them at Whole Foods anyhow. I get them at Safeway.
Yeah.
So there it is. I just think it's the absolute best Greek yogurt. And my favorite is black cherry. This is blueberry. Blueberry's pretty good too.
I think it is a staff favorite because I know I
do
cherry
Chobani
daily.
I do a daily Chobani. Absolutely.
What I don't know is why isn't Chobani sponsoring this program?
Yeah,
we're giving him so much publicity.
Senate Majority Leader.
Put your money where our mouth is.
And provide a spoon, please.
Yeah, seriously.
Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid said that the Washington football team should change their name. In an interview with The Hill, Reid said Dan Snyder is short-sighted on this. He also added that we live in a society where you can't denigrate a race of people, and that's what this is. Now, the three most powerful Democrats in Washington, President Obama, Harry Reid, and House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi, have all now spoken out about the controversial name.
Yeah. Go Harry. Yeah. Good for the Hill. Got that interview.
About
Our good
time.
friends at the Hill. And as Harry Reid said yesterday, you wouldn't have a team called the Blackskins.
That's right.
Exactly.
That's right.
The Library of Congress announced new additions to its National Film Registry. The most modern film accepted into the registry, which is restricted to films at least 10 years old.
These are like classic films. The films that'll be, like they say, will last for all time.
Yes, and the most recent one made is an experimental collage piece by New York artist Bill Morrison. And ironically, this film was created from deteriorating film footage.
Oh, weird.
From the Library of Congress.
Yeah.
Other films accepted include Tarantino's Pulp Fiction.
Love it.
Love it. Judgment at Nuremberg.
Whoa.
Mary Poppins, which was on last night.
Yeah.
Michael Moore's Roger and Me, and The Magnificent Seven, which is actually inspired by it's a 1960 Western inspired by Akira Kurosawa's Seven Samurai.
Such a good movie, by the way.
Absolutely.
Magnificent Seven.
No. That's interesting, all those films. Yeah.
Great list.
You know what really freaked me out on that is that Pulp Fiction is almost 20 years old. It came out in 94.
Whoa.
That messed with my head. That made me feel old.
I saw Pulp Fiction at Grumman's Chinese Theater.
Oh,
on
wow.
Hollywood Boulevard. Yeah.
That's cool.
God, I'll never forget that. Because that movie, that's the two before Between the Eyes, that movie.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Thank you. Thanks, Elisa. Yes, indeed. We did it, folks. We did it. Look, I'm not going to take all the credit for turning the White House around on this, but we talked about it yesterday. This intelligence panel that the president appointed last August to take a look at what the National Security Agency, the NSA, was up to with this massive collection of phone data, your calls and my calls. And the president appointed this panel to take a look at it. They filed their report, completed their report. They filed it with the White House on Friday. But then the White House said, well, they weren't going to release it until they finished reviewing it and deciding what they were going to do about it, maybe like in January or February. And I've been raising hell about that down at the White House. You remember, this is the day before yesterday, I asked Jay Carney again, when are you going to release that report?
Bill.
Jay, with respect to the NSA review panel's report, when did you say that would be released to the public?
I said publicly, I don't have a date for you. As I mentioned yesterday, we expect that it will be released.
Yeah, and then he went on to say it'll be sometime in maybe January, maybe February. And he said, we are going to release it then in the interest of transparency, to which my follow-up. What is the reasoning for not releasing it now? If you're going to release the full
I think it's rather extraordinary that, part of the commitment to transparency here is that this will be released. I just don't have a date for you.
Would transparency argue for releasing it now so we know what the panel has recommended?
I don't have a date for you, Bill, and when it's released, which I expect will be between now and the conclusion of the review here at the White House, you'll be able to examine its contents and make assessments accordingly. But it is my understanding that it will be released publicly.
So it's crazy. It's crazy. If they say we're so transparent, but they won't release the report. So we had secret spying by NSA, followed by a secret panel review, followed by a secret report. That's not transparency. Well, so again, you heard me raising hell about that at the White House. Yesterday, the president and the White House did a total 180, a total flip-flop. The president met with the panel yesterday morning, and then, to the surprise of all of us, they released the whole report. They didn't wait till January. They didn't wait till February. I think they realized they were wrong. Good for them. Josh Gerstein, from one of our good friends from Politico, called me up and said, "You did it." Well, I didn't do it all. But seriously, the White House I think they made the right decision. And the report, I haven't seen, it's 600 pages or so, but all the reports I've read of the report, it is brutal. It is damning. It says that this NSA is far, far out overstepping its bounds. The report calls for stopping this practice, not letting NSA capture the information on our phones anymore. Instead, it says the phone companies, which have those records, ought to keep those records. And as our justice system works today, for all local police departments at least, if the NSA has reason, or the CIA or whatever, they've reason to believe that somebody's in contact with some terrorist group, they can go to a judge, show the evidence, get a court order, and get the information from the phone company. In other words, they only go after people where there's reasonable suspicion. They will protect, the panel acted to protect our right of privacy, to protect us under the Fourth Amendment against unreasonable searches and seizures. So this is a big, big deal, folks, big deal. And the members of the panel told the president in their report, they say this, again, we've got to continue to go after people who want to do us harm, but we also have to be just as vigilant in protecting the civil liberties of Americans. I've been making that case ever since Edward Snowden released those documents. The report concluded this. Important sentence. Free nations must protect themselves, and nations that protect themselves must remain free. I think that sort of sums it up. Richard Clark, who was on this panel, he told reporters yesterday, he said, you know what this really amounts to? All this new technology and the fact that NSA can capture all this information? Richard Clark says, just because we can do it doesn't mean we should. Very, very big news. 866-55-PRESS. What do you think about this? Here we go. In 1 week, we've got a judge who says what the NSA has been doing is most likely unconstitutional. And now we have this panel of experts appointed by the president who says the program is out of control and it ought to stop. Do you think now it's up to President Obama. Will he follow their advice? 866-55-PRESS. Let's talk about it Thursday morning on The Bill Press Show.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where that ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
Columbine.
Virginia Tech.
Tucson.
Aurora.
Fort Hood. Oak Creek.
Newtown.
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 How many more?
How many more? How many more colleges? How many more classrooms?
How many more movie theaters?
How many more houses of faith?
How many more shopping malls?
How many more street corners?
How many more?
How many more?
Enough.
Enough.
Enough. Enough.
Demand a plan.
Right now. As a mom.
As a dad. As a friend. As a husband.
As a wife.
As an American.
As an American.
As an American.
As a human being.
For the children of Sandy Hook.
Demand a plan. No more lists of names. It's not too soon.
It's too late.
Now is the time.
Before we all know someone who loved someone on that list.
No more lists.
No more.
Who they might have been. No more.
If we had just done something yesterday. It's time.
We can do better than this.
We can do better than this.
It's time.
It's time.
It's time for our leaders to act.
Demand a plan. Right now.
Right now.
You! Demand it!
Enough.
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 None of us would want to be told we can't marry the person we love. As Americans, we believe in freedom. That's what I fought for as a Marine, and that's what we believe in as Republicans. Freedom means freedom for everyone. I didn't used to understand the importance of same-sex marriage, but after learning my brother was gay, I wanted the same rights for him. He was the best man at my wedding, and I want to be the best man at his. It's only fair that Calvin should have the freedom to marry the person he loves, too.
It's time for marriage.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
on your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
26 minutes after the hour, Senator Ron Wyden yesterday, who's been the leader of efforts to curb the NSA on its data mining, said this has been a good week for those who want to reform our intelligence agencies. It sure has. First, we had the federal judge who took a look at the operations and said, no. This is clearly in violation of the Fourth Amendment of the Constitution. And he said the program ought to stop. He stayed his order, giving the government a chance to appeal. And then yesterday we had this report by the intelligence panel appointed by President Obama come forward and say also that the NSA was way over the line, way out of control, and the program should stop, and the phone companies themselves should be the ones that collect and store this data. It leaves a couple still, again, your take at 866-55-PRESS. This is huge. This is huge news. Leaves a couple of questions unanswered. Three that I see. Number one, the president's got to decide. There are 46 recommendations in this report. The president has to decide which ones he takes and which ones he doesn't. Number one. Number two, the president's got to decide what he's going to do about the heads of our intelligence agencies who are the architects of this massive spying. Should General Keith Alexander stay as head of the NSA? Why? I think he ought to be fired. Fire the guy. He's the guy who's snooping on us, 866-55-PRESS, and sold it to the president. What do you think? Let's talk about it. Should James Clapper stay as director of national intelligence, or should he resign? Again, he's the guy, Clapper is the guy who lied under oath, committed perjury, admits it in front of the Senate Intelligence Committee in response to a question by Ron Wyden where he denied they were collecting the data on millions and millions of Americans, denied it outright. He lied. James Clapper, he ought to go. And then finally, the president's got to decide, we talked about this yesterday, what am I going to do about Edward Snowden? Because let's face it, there would not be any review, no judge's ruling, there would be no panel, there would be no report, there would be no conversation about what NSA is up to if Edward Snowden hadn't told us about it. So we're going to still treat him like a criminal? I don't think so.
This is the Bill Press Show.
If you're a homeowner...
This is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Pressing dot, I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
If you drive buzzed, it could cost you around $10,000. You'll face major legal fees, major fines, and steep insurance penalties. You could lose everything. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving.
When some people struggle with their mortgage payments, they become frozen, petrified. Not knowing what to do, they do nothing. But the people who take action are far more likely to get the most positive outcome. Making home affordable is a free government program. Call now to talk one-on-one with a housing expert about the options that are right for you. Real help, real answers, right now.
"34 minutes now after the hour. Here we go, the Bill Press Show. We've been talking about a major development yesterday. Stunning news out of the White House after refusing for 2 or 3 days in a row to release the report presented to the president by the panel of intelligence experts that he had asked to look into what NSA was up to. The president met with the panel yesterday, listened to them, describe the 46 recommendations that they make, and then the White House turned around and released the entire report. So we'll be able to read it, and we know what the panel said. These are people like Richard Clark, used to work for President Clinton, then worked for President Bush in the White House on national security issues, and 4 other leading former intelligence agency officials who really know this business. They look into it, and they concluded that what NSA was up to was not defensible, could not defend the need to protect our right of privacy with this massive collection of information on every phone call made by every American every day in the United States. They said, nope, it goes way, way, way too far. And we think it ought to stop, and the phone companies instead should keep that data. That leaves up the question of what should happen to the head of the NSA, what should happen to the director of our national intelligence, and what should happen to poor Edward Snowden stuck in Moscow. Billy is calling from Mangum, Oklahoma. Hey, Billy, good morning.
I earlier just expressed the opinion that the head of the agency should resign because they got caught.
Yeah.
I'm not saying they shouldn't do it. I'm saying they should be smart enough not to get caught.
Well, that's an interesting point, right? If they're so damn smart, right? If they're head of the intelligence agency, right? How are they dumb enough to get caught? But you know what it is, Billy? They got ratted out by Edward Snowden, right?
Yeah, they should have been smart enough to know somebody was going to hack them.
Yeah. Good point. I think that says a lot about both General Alexander and about James Clapper. By the way, one other recommendation of the panel is that the head of the NSA should not be a military general, because that brings a certain whole approach to problems that a civilian who may be more concerned about our basic freedoms would have. They say that there should be a civilian who is subject to Senate confirmation as head of the NSA. They also recommend that there should be a public advocate, an attorney who is there to represent you and me and to fight for you and me, that should be present and active and participating in every decision by that FISA court, which the NSA would have to go to get permission to seek any phone records. So what should happen to Snowden? What should happen to Clapper? What should happen to General Alexander? What should the president do about this report? Are we going to see, if you go back, third day in a row, and I'll tell you, New Yorker Magazine, last week now, Ryan Lizza, his story on this whole intelligence operation, phenomenal job that he did. And you read that, and you read what Senator Barack Obama was saying about the NSA, and contrast that with what President Obama so far has been doing about the NSA. This is the president's chance to get back to where he was as a real critic of the NSA as a United States senator. He's got to decide what to do about this report. Pierce is calling from Milwaukee. Hello, Pierce. Good morning.
I just had two quick comments.
Please.
One, I was just wondering how many laws should Edward Snowden have been allowed to break in order to uncover the NSA illegal activity?
Well,
so you guys keep on calling for him to, be pardoned, whatever.
Yeah, I don't know how many. I think basically one, which is this was secret information you're not supposed to release. But he did not get the information illegally. He got the information because he was working for that agency, and by some totally, I think, a careless operation. He had access to all the information. He should not have, but he did. What's your second point?
That information, though?
What's that?
Isn't it illegal for him to release that information?
No, I said he broke one law, I know, which is it was secret. That was secret information, which he did make public. Yes. There's no doubt that he broke the law.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't understand why we should even consider pardoning him.
Well, Martin Luther King broke the law, too. Nelson Mandela broke the law. I mean, sometimes, people, I'm not saying that he's on the same has the same stature as they do.
Okay.
But sometimes people break the law for a good reason.
Understood. Okay, and my second point, to go back to why the Obama administration has released the report, they would like to release the report before they make any decisions because they want to know what the press thinks and what everyone else thinks before they make any decisions and get any blowback.
That may be true. I think they made the decision to release it because they knew they could not that they could not argue that they're the most transparent presidency ever and sit on this report.
Even if they release this report, they can't argue that.
I would agree with I would agree with you on that. There are too many other things they've kept secret. But I think they realized that there was just what. I was talking with this reporter, Josh Gerstein from Politico, about this yesterday. I think somebody walked into the Oval Office or walked into a meeting there at the White House. I'd like to know who it was and said, "Are you kidding? Are you kidding? You're not going to release this report and you think you can get away with that? Come on, guys." And so they finally said, "All right, fine. We'll throw in the towel. We'll release the report. Yeah. All right. Hey, good to hear from you, Pierce. Thanks so much for your call. All right, from out in Milwaukee. Hey, one other important thing. This can't get buried today, which is what the Fed did yesterday. Very, very big news, And it's a good sign for all of us because it just shows, again, we've been a long time climbing out of that hole, fighting out of that hole, the George Bush left us in terms of a fiscal crisis. But we're at the point right now where the Fed feels so comfortable with the pace of economic recovery that they're willing to taper down or to dial down the efforts that they were doing to stimulate the economy by buying bonds every month. Chairman Ben Bernanke, in his final news conference, by the way, as Fed chair, announced their decision yesterday.
The committee decided, starting next month, to modestly reduce the pace at which it is increasing the size of the Federal Reserve's balance sheet.
Yeah, they went down and said they're not going to buy instead of buying $85 billion in bonds every month, they're going to buy $75 billion, which is still a lot. So they're still going to try to continue to try to stimulate the economy, but they're going to start, again, tapering down. And Ben Bernanke says, here's this system, this has been working, and here are the results that we've seen.
Since we began the current purchase program, the economy has added about 2.9 million jobs, and the unemployment rate has fallen by more than a percentage point to 7%.
Yep. It was over 8 when they started, 8.1, I think, now it's down to 7. And they predict that the unemployment rate will be down to about 6.3% by the end of 2014. And Bernanke said, we're going in the right direction. We're starting to see the end of the recovery. But he also said, if things change and if things start getting bad again, which he doesn't think is going to happen, they could always kick in and re-up the stimulus, but for now they're going in that direction. Traders on Wall Street, business community, so happy to hear this news that the Dow Industrial Average yesterday shot up by almost 300. I think it was 292 points. David Jackson, on top of things at the White House, and we'll check in with him next on the Bill Press Show.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
It is possible to read the history of this country as one long struggle to extend the liberties established in our Constitution to everyone in America. In other words, who, according to our laws and culture, gets to be considered a person? The law creates legal personhood, and movements create law and change culture. So, how have the courts passed laws to shape our culture? That history goes way back before Citizens United. 1819, Dartmouth College versus Woodward, Supreme Court case, turned a corporate charter from a government-granted charter to a contract. This ruling gave corporations standing within the Constitution. 1886, Santa Clara County versus Southern Pacific Railroad. Though the court did not rule on corporate personhood, the decision was subsequently cited as a precedent to hold that a private corporation is entitled to the same 14th Amendment rights of due process and equal protection as human beings. This makes it impossible for us to make laws that treat local businesses any differently than giant multinational corporations, even if their business practices are deemed to be harmful to workers, the environment and communities, or if they have a history of violating the law. Hale versus Henkel, 1906. The court granted corporations the Fourth Amendment search and seizure protection. Dodge versus Ford Motor Company, 1919. The Michigan Supreme Court says the business corporation is organized and carried on primarily for the profit of the stockholders. Stockholder primacy is established. The purpose of the corporation, according to the court, is no longer to serve the public good, as it had been. It is now to maximize profit for shareholders above all else. Pennsylvania Coal Company versus Mahon, 1922. Corporations get the Fifth Amendment takings clause, meaning if you pass a regulation that impacts a corporation's ability to make a profit, that is deemed a taking, and they can sue for the right to future profits lost. This creates a chilling effect, and local and state governments become much more hesitant to pass laws in the public interest for fear that corporations can claim loss of potential profits that cities and states will be on the hook to pay. Buckley versus Vallejo, 1976. The Supreme Court rules that spending money to influence elections is protected under the First Amendment, in effect saying that money is speech. Citizens United versus Federal Election Commission, 2010.
Today, the Supreme Court of Chief Justice John Roberts declared that because of the alchemy of its 19th century predecessors in deciding that corporations had all the rights of people, any restrictions on how these corporate beings spend their money on political advertising are unconstitutional.
The court's ruling threatens to undermine the integrity of elected institutions across the nation. It's a rejection of the common sense of the American people.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Here we go, 13 minutes before the top of the hour on this Thursday morning. The budget bill passing the Senate yesterday, heading to the White House, where the president will definitely sign it before he leaves on his Hawaii vacation. What else is going on down there? Nobody knows better than our good friend from USA Today, covers the White House for USA Today, David Jackson. Good morning, David.
Good morning, Bill.
Hey, so first of all, I thought for sure when I saw the schedule for today we would have a newser by President Obama. What's going on? He usually does that before he leaves for Hawaii.
It'll be the day or tomorrow. I think tomorrow's a better bet.
What time does he leave tomorrow? Do you know?
The schedule says Friday evening, but knowing these things, I think it'll be a little bit earlier. I think he wants to try to get to Hawaii before midnight, so you calculate it back. I'm thinking maybe a 4 or 5 o'clock departure. But the last guidance I got was to look for something on Friday. They also told me there'll be an event today, but no one would tell me what it was. So it's all kind of strange things going on down there, Billy. You know, the report, the NSA report, which last week they said it'll be this week, and then earlier this week they said it'll be next month, and then yesterday they said, we'll release it in a couple of hours. So I think we're in this stay tuned kind of mode right now.
I was just going to ask you about that because you were there 2 days ago when I asked Jay Carney about releasing this, and he said we're going to do it in January, February as our part of our commitment to transparency. You know, the point I made was, well, if you really want to be transparent, you ought to release it now. That was 2 days ago, and then yesterday, after refusing to release it now 2 days ago, yesterday they released the whole report. What happened?
It was starting to leak out. People who had worked on the report were talking to reporters, and there were bits and pieces of it floating around in different media outlets, so that they just decided to release it. I think the whole thing got kind of messed up, in part, Bill, because of last week's South Africa trip. You know, that backed up Obama on quite a few things, including this. I think originally the plan was to Obama was going to meet with the commissioners like on Monday morning, and then they would roll out the report that same day. And instead, they just did that yesterday, as it turned out.
I think they also realized that they couldn't continue to make this argument. We're the most transparent agency.
That was certainly a part of it too. They're just trying to get a lot of things off the books before the end of the year and before the Hawaii holidays, so that in their minds they can start fresh when he returns in January.
And when you look at this report is pretty damning when it comes to NSA, right?
Very much so. A lot of concern about it, not least of which is what you just referred to, the lack of transparency and a lot of secrecy. A lot of people didn't know this stuff was going on. I mean, my take on the report is they're not proposing to end anything. They're just proposing to have more review of it and more transparency about what they're doing.
But they do say that the phone companies, not the NSA, should be the ones who store all this data. And then when NSA needs something, they think they've got a reason, right, for getting the information.
Right, I think that's going to be a real sticking point, because people are already concerned that doesn't really address the problem, that this information will still be out there. And in fact, it may expand the problem, because then more people will have access to it if a private phone company has access to it. So I'll be curious to see how that one progresses. But yeah, but the records would still be collected and stored. It'd just be through a different mode.
You know, and part of this activity this week too, I guess, and influencing this decision was his meeting with the tech leaders, right? Where the tech leaders said, "You got to help us out here, right? Our customers don't like this."
Right, and they're having trouble selling, particularly overseas. They're having trouble selling a lot of their equipment. So it's definitely having an impact on the economy. So That's all a part of it too. There's not much doubt President Obama will do something. It's just a question of how far he's going to go in the direction of these.
So he's got to decide, and he will tell us which of the recommendations he'll take and which ones he won't.
Right.
What do you think happens to General Alexander or James Clapper out of all of this?
Well, General Alexander's going to retire in the spring, so President Obama's already made clear he's going to reject one proposal, and that was to split off the Cyber Command and the NSA head, and have two separate ones, and maybe have a civilian head up the NSA. I think it's been made pretty clear that those jobs will be kept together, and there'll be a military person who'll do it.
Alexander's already announced his retirement? I didn't realize that.
I don't know if it's been public or not, but I think it's been pretty, on background, they've been pretty confirmed he's planning to retire in the spring.
And I saw that Rand Paul, yesterday, Senator Rand Paul, demanded that or suggested that James Clapper ought to retire out of all of this.
I was going to say, I think that's exactly what's going to happen. I would look for retirement. I don't think he'll be fired, but I would, James Clapper is up there too, as he's in his late 60s. So it wouldn't shock me to see him retire as well, and maybe even a little mini reorganization of the DNI situation.
You talked about an event today. It could be the event would be the signing of the budget bill. Perhaps.
Oh, that's one thing, yes. Very good point. He's definitely going to do that. I think the question is how he's going to do it, whether he'll address us, whether he'll just have a basic signing ceremony in the Oval or what. I suspect that's what we'll hear from him about. There's also the Fed vice chair job is hanging out there. I don't know if that'll be filled today or not, but that's another thing that they want to try to get off the books as soon as they can.
Well, it's interesting the president had some good news yesterday from the Fed, clearly, right? The Fed saying they have so much confidence in this economic recovery that they're going to start tapering down their bond buying. And Ben Bernanke talked about Janet Yellen as the next chair, and, like it's a fait accompli, right?
I think it is. I think it's just a question of when they're going to vote, and that may happen today as well, too. The Senate, I heard last night that the Senate may confirm Yellen as early as today, perhaps tomorrow.
Yeah, and Bernanke stressed the point that Janet Yellen was totally in agreement with what the Fed did yesterday and would continue the same policies.
Yes, that was Bernanke's last news conference, and it was treated as a handoff.
So are you going to Hawaii, David Jackson?
No, I'm going home to South Carolina, my friend.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
But we're kind of strapped out. We have two guys. We have Gannett Papers in Hawaii, so they're the ones who tend to look after the president when he's out there. So.
And I was told, because I was checking in with them yesterday, that they said, don't expect any news out of Hawaii, no events. They really don't want to do anything while they're out there.
And that's a good point, and that explains why we were seeing a lot of things coming out this week. The AUKUS to China situation, for example. They're trying to clear the decks of a lot of stuff, in part so they can start the year fresh, but also in part so that he can have some downtime in the next couple of weeks. But the way these things go, something external is going to happen, and he's going to have to be sprung back into public action. I don't know what it's going to be.
Yeah, events always intrude on the president's vacation, don't they?
Absolutely.
Yeah, they do. David Jackson, we'll see you a little bit later today. Thanks for joining us this morning, David.
Thank you, Bill.
All right, always good. David Jackson, USA Today, usatoday.com.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
In 1920s America, the Great Depression effectively erased consumer demand. Struggling manufacturers needed new ways to get people buying again. Innovative production processes like stamping and use of molds allowed them to use new materials for their designs. Products using vinyl, chrome, aluminium and plywood began appearing. American industrial designers began introducing streamlined, efficient shapes that shouted progress. Bel Geddes pioneered what we now refer to as utilitarian art. Things that had little reason to look sleek now all of a sudden did. At the 1939 World Fair featuring Bel Geddes' immensely popular Futurama exhibit, a new era of American industrial design proudly claimed to be building the world of tomorrow. Americans found great positivity in these futuristic forms. Yay. Things were looking up. American industrial designers realised that by making objects look great, people simply wanted them more. From cars to kitchen appliances, the most influential society on earth was spending money again. Mass consumption had arrived. Advertisers finally had lots to talk about. Personal taste could be expressed through the things you bought. Style became equally as important as function. Chair designers like Eames and Saarinen didn't just design seating, they created desirable lifestyles. People behind the products suddenly were stars. Everyone wanted to know who they were. Raymond Loewy was one of the shining lights of American industrial design. His face ended up on every coffee table in the nation. Toothpaste packaging promised whiter teeth. Washing powder packaging promised whiter whites. Who knew such simple household objects would shape the tastes and ambitions of an entire society? American industrial design improved America, functionally, culturally and intellectually, and exported it around the globe.
If you drive buzzed, it could cost you around $10,000. You'll face major legal fees, major fines, and steep insurance penalties. You could lose everything. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving.
When some people struggle with their mortgage payments, they become frozen, petrified. Not knowing what to do, they do nothing. But the people who take action are far more likely to get the most positive outcome. Making home affordable is a free government program. Call now to talk one-on-one with a housing expert about the options that are right for you. Real help, real answers, right now.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
All right, here we go on a Thursday morning. Peter, what's up?
Quick story about outgoing Virginia Governor Bob McDonnell.
Yes.
So federal prosecutors told him last week that he and his wife are going to be charged in connection with this gift scandal about things he's received and things he did receive while he was governor. It turns out that after his attorneys made a face-to-face appeal in Washington, they have delayed that decision. So the scandal goes deeper.
Aha. So he's able to rig the court, rig the justice?
That's what it looks like. Washington Post reports.
Terry McAuliffe, get on top of this. Indeed. All right. Stay with us.
This
Bill Press Show.
is the Bill Press Show.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Hey, good morning, everybody. What do you say? Good to see you on this Thursday, December 19. Welcome to the Bill Press Show on a Thursday morning. We got lots and lots of news to talk about today. Coming to you live on Free Speech TV and on our video stream, TawkrTV, TawkrTV, youtube.com/TawkrTV is how you find it. How about it? Yesterday, first big bit of news, the Fed announced that the economy is doing so well, it's going to taper down, start dialing down the amount of bonds that it buys every month. That good news shot the Dow up almost 300 points, proving that Obamanomics is actually working. this economic recovery, as slow as it is real. It keeps going in the same direction. There will be no double-dip recession, as some people predicted. But the biggest news of all, maybe of the day, is on the NSA front. After meeting yesterday with the panel of his advisors, the president asked to look into what NSA was up to. The White House did a total flip. They did what I have been pushing for. They released the panel's entire report, and it is brutal. It says that the NSA was way overstepping its bounds, that this collection of massive data on phone calls has to stop, and instead the phone companies keep those records, and NSA can only get those records when they go to a judge, go to a court, and show evidence that there's some reason why they need to pry into our phone records. That is a big effing deal, as Joe Biden would say. On all that's happening, we want your calls, we want your comments, 866-55-PRESS, or you can reach us on Twitter at BP Show, on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. Let's get right into it.
This
Thursday morning
is the Bill Press Show.
Don't look at me. Your hair's a bit frizzy today. Oh, you should pick that up. Oh, you're such a dork. Loser. Here, let me help you with that. Oops.
Every day, kids witness bullying.
Oh, look. Your crush is looking at you. Poor you.
They want to help, but don't know how.
See, no one here's gonna help you, because no one
Teach your
likes you.
kids how to be more than a bystander. Visit stopbullying.gov.
If you drive buzzed, it could cost you around $10,000. You'll face major legal fees, major fines, and steep insurance penalties. You could lose everything. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving.
When some people struggle with their mortgage payments, they become frozen, petrified. Not knowing what to do, they do nothing. But the people who take action are far more likely to get the most positive outcome. Making home affordable is a free government program. Call now to talk one-on-one with a housing expert about the options that are right for you. Real help, real answers, right now.
Here at the GED Pep Talk Center, we have pep talkers standing by to get you motivated for your GED diploma. Text the name Terry to 69222 for a sympathetic pep talk.
You show people what you really are.
Or for a gentle pep talk, text the name Deborah.
You know you're going to make people very proud of you.
And if that's not enough, text the name Danny for an extreme pep talk.
Prove everyone wrong. Show them you're the boss.
Get your GED pep talk and find free GED classes. Text the name of the person you want a pep talk from to 69222.
Did you see the world differently? Did you celebrate the victory?
So today, I state clearly and with conviction America's commitment to seek the peace and security of a world without nuclear weapons.
Did you stand up against our greatest threat? Change the world.
broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
The economy keeps improving. The Fed made some big changes yesterday, and the Dow shot up almost 300 points. Hallelujah. Good morning. Thursday, December 19. So good to see you today. Thank you for joining us. Here we go. We got lots and lots to talk about today here on this Thursday edition of the Bill Press Show, because there's good news on the economic front, there's good news on the budget deal, and there's good news on the NSA, and another strong set of voices coming out saying what the NSA is doing in terms of collecting our phone data is all wrong and it ought to stop. We'll get into all of that with you, tell you all about it, and most importantly, give you a chance to tell us what you think about it. 866-55-PRESS is our toll-free number, 866-55-PRESS. You can reach us and send us your comments on Twitter. Please do, at BP Show, and on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. Coming to you live on your local progressive talk radio station. Simulcast live on Free Speech TV on the DirecTV or the Dish Network. And video streamed at TawkrTV, youtube.com/Tawker, TAWKR TV. Whether you're watching or listening, we welcome you and ask you to join me in saying hello to the team this morning. Peter Ogburn.
Hi there.
Yes, sir. Indeed. Calling the roll here this morning. Elisa Murphy. Elisa.
Good morning.
Going to get your little ski sweater on
This
today,
is not
huh?
a ski sweater.
No, it's not?
This is not thick at all. This actually has a zip front.
Don't.
Careful.
Okay.
Cyprian, cue the sensors.
Yeah, my pants have a zipper too.
Yeah. Touche.
Yes. I'm going to stop right now.
Yeah.
Alicia Cruz, modestly dressed on the phones there. Yes, indeed.
What does that mean?
And man, I don't even want to look.
No, you don't want to see what Cyprian's wearing. You don't want to see what Cyprian's wearing today.
No, is he mooning the camera again?
You don't look. Don't look.
Cyprian Balding, our videographer. Yes, indeed. Well, there's sports has some colorful characters, right? I think it's and every once in a while one of them pops up. I don't think any of us would have heard of this guy, the basketball coach of Southern Illinois University.
Not exactly a powerhouse.
Not exactly a powerhouse, but they lost to Murray State, which is even less than a powerhouse, I guess. And the basketball coach was not happy with his boys. He said, "Hell, my wife could play better."
Now let's talk about our big guys. 2 for 11. How can you go 2 for 11? My wife can score more than 2 buckets on 11 shots, because I know my wife will at least shot fake 1 time. But those guys aren't listening. They're uncoachable right now.
They're uncoachable.
His wife knows how to shot fake.
Yeah, uncoachable right now. Yeah. What kind of relationship he's going to have with his team after making these comments, right?
Well, it's not good. Some of them have already started tweeting and saying, like, hey, when you start pointing fingers and stuff like that, then this is going to breed a not a very good relationship.
You say things like that, I think, in the locker room, right? You know what I mean?
Right.
Barry Hinson, Coach Barry Hinson, and he also says, what do these guys think they are, Santa Claus?
We made 3 turnovers tonight where we just came down and threw them the ball. I swear I thought one time that one of our players said Merry Christmas. I thought it was a gift.
Here's the ball. Boop, Merry Christmas. Yeah. Boop, here's a Merry Christmas. Yeah.
Some of his players kept falling down. They would fall, and he was going, man, I swore there were snipers in the rafters taking my boys down, because they were just falling on the ground.
He called them Mama's boys.
He was brutal.
Oh yeah.
He said, I'm gonna teach them like you do a dog. When you've done bad, and he gets a piece of paper, he rolls up, he goes, oh, good boy.
Oh no.
Bad boy. Look what you've done.
How long is he gonna have his job?
Well, if they keep losing to teams like Murray State, not long.
Not very long, indeed. All right, we got lots coming up here today. Senator Sherrod Brown from Ohio will be joining us at the top of the next hour. And this is the Gibson Hour on the Bill Press Show. Yes, David Gibson from Religion News Service joins us at the top of the program. Ginger Gibson his sister, from Politico. Probably no relation. From Politico joins us at the half. But first,
this is the
with the big stories of the day.
Other headlines today: the bomb scare that rattled Harvard on Wednesday was nothing but a student trying to get out of his final exam. A criminal complaint was filed against 20-year-old Eldo Kim, alleging he sent hoax emails saying shrapnel bombs would go off soon in 2 buildings on Harvard's campus. The threats were taken seriously, with the buildings being evacuated and shutting them down for hours. The maximum penalties for the bomb hoax are 5 years in prison and a $250,000 fine.
You know, there are other ways of getting out of a final exam, right? You know,
more creative ways, I'd say.
And also, you do that when you're 15 or 16.
Yeah.
You can say, like, maybe you don't know anybody. He's a 20-year-old guy.
At Harvard.
At Harvard, yeah, exactly.
A real-life Breaking Bad situation took place in Montana, with Walter White getting 12 years in jail for selling meth. One of several defendants who brought drugs into Billings, White is responsible for 32 pounds of the drug. White took a plea agreement, pleading guilty to possession of meth and distribution and 2 firearms possession charges. He was caught with 4 ounces of meth, 2 handguns, and more than $15,000.
Truth is stranger than fiction.
Whoa.
The real-life Walter White couldn't get away with it. The TV one did.
No. You know, just a quick Montana. Max Baucus.
Yeah.
Senator Max Baucus from Montana. Neighbor of mine here on the Hill. About 2 weeks ago, not quite, I had a guy come to my door from the State Department doing a background check on Max Baucus. And I said, he's a United States Senator. What are you doing a background check on Max Baucus? He said, can't tell you, but he needed to know these questions, you know. These crazy questions. Have you ever seen him drunk? Does he use illegal drugs? All this kind of stuff, you know. How do you know him? How long have you known him? Boom, boom, boom. So I'm thinking, Max Baucus is going to get a big job.
Yeah.
And then I realized Gary Locke is retiring as, I'm thinking State Department is going to be, Gary Locke is retiring, coming back as ambassador to China. So I saw Max the next day, and I said, Mr. Ambassador, congratulations. And he just looked at me and he said, somebody came to your house? And I said, yeah. And I said, ambassador to China, right? He said, not talking. I caught it. I got it.
No kidding.
So yesterday when the news broke, I called him up and I said, I'm making my plane reservations for Beijing. I'm staying at the embassy with you, dude.
The Pope celebrated his 77th birthday by having breakfast with 3 homeless men. The Pope found 3 men sleeping under the large portico in front of the Vatican Press Hall on the main boulevard in front of St. Peter's Square and asked them if they wanted to come to his birthday party. One of them commented to the Pope, "It's worthwhile being a vagrant because you get to meet the Pope."
Not bad.
That's right.
There are benefits.
Benefits of being homeless, right? All right, here we go. Yes, indeed. Well, you know, I've got a thing about the Koch brothers I have for a long time. I wrote a book about the Koch brothers called The Obama Hate Machine. And their multi-million-dollar campaign to destroy Barack Obama on a personal level through the money that they spent in 2008 and since. And also in that book, I talked about how they are like everywhere. I identified 57 different organizations that they fund entirely or mainly. And also a lot of so-called research think tanks that they have created on various universities and college campuses around the country. Well, now we have yet another one, $1 million from the Charles Koch Foundation to none other than Catholic University here in Washington, D.C. Some Catholic educators are very upset with this. David Gibson is a national reporter at Religion News Service who's been writing about it, joining us on our news line this morning. Hey, David, good to have you with us. Thank you.
Good to be here.
So how did the news broke, right? Because a group of educators and Catholic leaders wrote to Catholic University about it. Tell us about that.
Yeah, well, the actual $1 million donation had been announced kind of, just as a matter of course last month, that this new business school that CUA was going to be establishing this year would be funded in part by this large donation from the Charles Koch Foundation, one of the Koch brothers. And, it started to percolate up. I mean, when they were thinking of, this is Catholic University of America. This is the only Catholic university chartered in the United States by the Vatican, supported directly by the bishops, and that it was going to be taking money from a foundation that advocates so many of these policies that are so, they would say, contrary to Catholic social teaching. So it took a little while, and they got a petition together, and about 50 top Catholic leaders, theologians, and priests, and sent it to the president of CUA and released it to the media.
Well, and as they point out in this letter, just reading your story and quoting the letter, that Charles Koch and his brother David, quote, fund organizations that advance public policies that directly contradict Catholic teaching on a range of moral issues, from economic justice to environmental stewardship. I mean, when you look at the thing, the Koch brothers were behind the efforts in Wisconsin to defund public unions, to take pensions away from workers. In terms of workers' rights, the Catholic Church has always stood strongly on support of workers' rights. Koch brothers, just on the exact opposite of that issue, just to name one issue.
Yeah, that's the rights of workers, unions. That's bedrock Catholic social teaching. But also government regulation of the environment, but.
Right.
Also, these are things that they're advocating that also seem to go directly against not only centuries of Catholic social teaching, but also the very clear teaching of recent popes, not just John Paul II and Benedict XVI, but also Pope Francis, this guy who's rocking the internet, rocking the world. He just came out last month with a big document talking about the problems of unfettered capitalism and this terrible income inequality and trickle-down economics, just blasting that, all the kinds of things that the Koch brothers and their allies are seen as supporting. One
other issue, the Koch brothers have been out in front when the key funders of efforts to block any movement on climate change, but of course because they're basically oil and pipeline business, right? Many businesses, but that's a big part of their business. And so they've been leaders against any climate change legislation, which again would contradict, the church's teachings on environmental stewardship.
Exactly, care of the environment, and really, again, not just Pope Francis, who's preparing, by the way, an encyclical, the most authoritative document a pope can issue on environmental protection, but also Pope Benedict.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, he is, and that's going to be, it looks like that's going to be coming out sometime next year. But he's already spoken about this, in terms of, and so has Benedict XVI. He was known as the Green Pope for his, his championing of care of the environment. So,
again, the Koch brothers have done this on campus after campus. George Mason University, right outside of Washington here, Florida State University, I don't know how many others. And I understand, why universities are grubbing for money and they're hungry for money, but do they take it from just anybody? What's the Catholic University people say about this?
Well, listen, the thing is, it's not just Catholic University of America. There are about 24, 25 Catholic universities who over the last few years have taken smaller amounts of money from the Koch brothers. Universities are huge. Catholic universities are huge complexes. They take all kinds of money from all kinds of people for various things. The real issue here, and what came up, and it's really part of a wider debate in the Catholic Church over economics, the role of social justice versus the role of hot-button issues like abortion and gay marriage. But the issue here is Koch brothers funding a business school, a school that's going to be training the next generation of predominantly Catholic leaders in the world of business and finance. Is this the appropriate funding mechanism for that? Are there strings attached to what the Charles Koch is giving here? Those are the questions that the people who signed this letter want answered.
Yeah. Well, in my book, The Obama Hate Machine, I quoted somebody, I forget now who, I don't have a copy in front of me, that called this whole operation the Kochtopus, right? Because they're like an octopus. They're like all over. And they really are, they use their money very effectively to promote their point of view, which I do also think is contradictory to basic Catholic social justice teaching and doesn't belong in Catholic University. Well, we'll see what happens over there. Hey, David, thanks for your good reporting and thanks for your time this morning.
Great to be here. Thanks.
All right, David Gibson with the National Religion News Service, by the way, which is religionnews.com. Religionnews.com.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where that ember will land. Only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
Columbine, Virginia Tech,
Tucson,
Aurora,
Fort Hood, Oak Creek,
Newtown.
Newtown,
Newtown.
Newtown.
How many more?
How many more? How many more colleges? How many more classrooms?
How many more movie theaters?
How many more houses of faith?
How many more shopping malls?
How many more street corners?
How many more?
How many more?
Enough.
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 Demand a plan.
Right now. As a mom.
As a dad. As a friend. As a husband.
As a wife.
As an American.
As an American.
As an American.
As a human being.
For the children of Sandy Hook.
Demand a plan. No more lists of names. It's not too soon.
It's too late.
Now is the time.
Before we all know someone who loved someone on that list.
No more lists.
No more.
Who they might have been. No more.
If we had just done something yesterday. It's time.
We can do better than this.
We can do better than this.
It's time.
It's time.
It's time for our leaders to act.
Demand a plan. Right now.
Right now.
You! Demand it!
Enough.
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 None of us would want to be told we can't marry the person we love. As Americans, we believe in freedom. That's what I fought for as a Marine, and that's what we believe in as Republicans. Freedom means freedom for everyone. I didn't used to understand the importance of same-sex marriage, but after learning my brother was gay, I wanted the same rights for him. He was the best man at my wedding, and I want to be the best man at his. It's only fair that Calvin should have the freedom to marry the person he loves, too.
It's time for marriage.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Here we go now, 26 minutes after the hour, Thursday, December 19. Ginger Gibson covers the Congress for Politico. She will be here with us in studio for the next half hour. We're just talking to David Gibson from Religion News Services about the Koch brothers trying to buy Catholic University, and Catholic University seems willing to accept their money, even though their brand of policy and politics is direct contradiction to everything that Pope Francis is saying. Come on, sometimes you just got to tell people, thanks, but no thanks. Pat is out in Beloit, Wisconsin. Hey, Pat, good morning.
Hey, Bill, another thing that isn't religion, but it has to do with the public sector. For years, I have watched NOVA, which is a major scientific program on PBS. At the end, the credits would say David H. Koch, and I never, until this all started, recognized who that was. And here he's funding all this PBS programming.
I didn't know they were in that, but you know what else, Pat? You go down, come here to Washington, go to down the mall to the Smithsonian, the Natural History Museum, and the big dinosaur exhibit there is funded by the Koch Foundation, right?
Exactly. So it makes you wonder, because this is a paramount program in scientific funding, is it somehow slanted?
I'll bet you one thing, you won't find that program talking about climate change, or it's certainly not admitting that that human activity is responsible for climate change.
It has had climate change, but I don't know that it has said that human activity causes it. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, and the same thing down here at the museum. I forget exactly, but the way it is worded is very, very clear that they have influenced what the Smithsonian is showing in that exhibit. And the impact of climate change on our environment. Hey, Pat, always good to hear from you. Thank you so much. Boy, on the political front, got to get this in somehow. Do it now. Big news out of Virginia. Mark Obenshain, the Republican candidate for Attorney General, has finally conceded. Democrat Mark Herring will be the next Attorney General of Virginia. They, in the middle of the recount, Obenshain realized it was not going his way. So he just threw in the towel, which is Democrats, again, a huge victory in Virginia here in 2013 with the new governor, Terry McAuliffe, new lieutenant governor, and now Democrat as Attorney General, a Democratic sweep in Virginia. What used to be a red state became a little purple, is now a blue state with 2 U.S. senators and all 3 statewide officials Democrats.
This is the Bill Press Show.
So this is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Pressing down, I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Same time next week?
Well, of course.
Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
This is the Bill Press Show.
33 minutes after the hour now here, Thursday, December 19. The Bill Press Show coming to you live from our studio on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C. We're just down the street from the United States Capitol building where Ginger Gibson, among other the whole host of reporters, covers the doings in the House and in the Senate. And is kind enough to join us in studio this morning, back in studio this morning. Hi, Ginger. Nice to see you again.
Good morning. Glad to be here again.
All right, so the big question is, are you related to David?
No.
Gibson,
No.
right? Who was at top of the hour? So we thought this was the whole Gibson hour? No?
I don't believe so. I don't know,
All right.
maybe long-lost cousins.
Maybe. Got to find out. Anyhow, Ginger Gibson is with Politico, not with Religion News Services. So yesterday, let's start here. The big vote and the big announcement made. Senator Blumenthal from Connecticut was presiding on the budget.
On this vote, the yeas are 64, the nays are 36.
And the budget carries it. A big bipartisan vote in the House and in the Senate. Now goes down to the White House. Done deal, right?
It is a done deal. There's little doubt that the president will sign this budget deal. Important to remember, it doesn't actually do much. It doesn't appropriate the money, so they still have to come out and do that again before the January 15th deadline when funding runs out. But big symbolic win that they were able to agree on something, pass a piece of legislation, get it through both chambers on these big bipartisan margins, and send it to the White House.
I know we're going to be talking to Senator Sherrod Brown at the top of the next hour. He, among other senators, were very unhappy with the fact that there was no extension of unemployment benefits as part of this budget deal. What's going to happen there?
Well, the House had some members put forth an amendment that would have added it to this budget deal. House Republicans said it hadn't been agreed upon. They did not include it. Senate Dems really had no way. There was a lot of questions about if they could have even done it themselves without the House started it. So they're left to wait for the House when they come back. And Senator Reid has said it's going to be his top priority. I know Nancy Pelosi was very upset that it wasn't included and wants to see it happen very quickly. And like I said, they have to pass a funding bill in the beginning of the year. They have until the 15th, likely to do an omnibus bill to fund all of government through September. And that could be a vehicle, I think, where we see unemployment attached to that because they need a way to get it done. You're not going to get enough Republicans in the House to vote for it unless it's attached to something, very likely. So it could be that those who, I believe it's 1.3 million people who are going to lose their unemployment insurance the week after Christmas, could be waiting a couple more weeks longer to get that bill passed.
It seems to me it's a sign of this sort of this dysfunctional Congress that the House is totally gone this week, and the Senate is here, and it's already Thursday, and it doesn't look like they're going to even leave today. And they're continuing to work and to get things done, and nothing in the House. I mean, so how can one House of Congress be working so hard at stuff, and the other House just simply not even missing in action?
The House is pretty rigid about their schedule, and we saw them change it during the shutdown, but it's very unusual for them to change what is said in the beginning of the year. They took only 1 week for Thanksgiving, where the Senate took 2. So at the end of the day, they both will have only worked 2 weeks in December. But that only having 1 week of overlap is causing them some problems because they can't keep talking about these things. They lost a week on the front end of negotiations. They've lost a week on the back end. And they're not going to be able to get this UI done. And there wasn't really a sense of urgency. I think that we saw Democrats getting unhappy at the end that it wasn't there, but no one was talking about it until that last week, which was surprising that we weren't hearing more, even from Democrats, about how this was going to run out at the end of the month.
What is the unfinished business that the Senate will be taking up today?
They have the Defense Authorization Act, which is a very pared down bill that's not going to be subject to amendments on the floor. So we're not going to see a vote on Iran sanctions.
This is funding for...
This is authorization. So this is the ability for the Department of Defense basically to function. It is an annual bill that has to get done, and it allows them to continue to do the things they do with congressional permission. It's a big piece of legislation.
Right. And there were two, at least that I know of, two important amendments that were talked about. One was an amendment, as you just indicated, to impose stiffer sanctions against Iran. No vote?
No vote. And
not even going to be debated and voted on.
Not going to be debated and voted on. Had they come to some type of agreement on this NDAA bill sooner, we might have seen Iran negotiated in there. But we know the White House didn't really want it because of their talks with Iran. And the second big thing is sexual assault. Senator Gillibrand had been pushing very hard to include a new oversight program for this, some new rules about how sexual assault complaints are heard in the Department of Defense. And because they couldn't get it done, they couldn't come to an agreement, she got left out as well. And will be no vote on that either.
Well, but she and Claire McCaskill both get left out, right? I mean,
right.
So what does that mean? It's just the status quo remains then for the issue of sexual assault in the military?
Which
even the military acknowledges is what one of the generals called a cancer eating at the Pentagon?
So the Pentagon says they're working to address it internally. Members of Congress like Gillibrand, like McCaskill have said this is not enough. We need to change it. There's some changes to how reporting is done. So do you report to your direct senior? Or does it go somewhere else? Which in the military, who you complain to in the chain of command is a big deal. They want to change that. The Pentagon doesn't. And so it's going to be left out. It's not going to be included. They're hopeful they can bring a separate piece of legislation next year. But we've seen how well Congress moves pieces of the legislation, and they don't do it very well.
Right.
So without attaching it, it's a big deal in Congress, attaching something that's not incredibly popular in the halls of Congress to something that has to get done. It's about the only way to do it, and without something attached to it, it could be a whole other year before some of those changes are made.
The Republicans are not happy with the fact that Harry Reid changed the filibuster rules. At the same time, because he changed the filibuster rules, there have been several nominations that have been held up for a long time that have gotten through. We now have a transportation secretary, right? We now have a secretary of Homeland Security, neither of whom were real controversial. They just were being held up for the sake of being held up. We now have, 3 D.C. district court judges that have been confirmed. One that is still, and there may be some others I'm forgetting, but I was reminded yesterday that we do not yet have a new head of the Fed, right? Janet Yellen, everybody thinks will be. Ben Bernanke talked about her yesterday as the new head of the Fed. Yesterday was his last news conference as chairman. Are they going to do that before they leave?
There's little doubt that she's got the support, especially with the new rules to pass. But what we've seen is Republicans unhappy about Reid changing those rules on the filibuster, dragging everything else out. So if you want to do that, watch us hold up and slow down the process. I mean, the budget, overwhelming bipartisan support, they couldn't vote on it till Wednesday because Republicans delayed the process. And that is causing a different type of logjam in the Senate. I would expect them to address Yellen before they go home at the end of the week. And Reid has...
Which is today or tomorrow, right?
Reid has threatened to bring them back or keep them on the weekend if they can't start moving things more quickly. But it is something that we're seeing a little bit of an attempt at a backlash for Reid. Maybe short-lived. Maybe they'll go home for Christmas and have some Christmas cheer and come back and decide they don't want to keep holding things up as much as they can. But the time is getting short.
Are there any other major nominations that are still held up?
At this point, they've moved the big ones. So they've moved, as you said, DHS, except for Yellen. Those 3 district court judges were really what might have been the cause of the change in the rules.
Right.
It appeared Republicans were going to block judges, hopefully hoping to get through the next presidential election if they could.
And just to remind us all that the changes in the filibuster that the leader Reid brought about only affect executive nominations, correct?
Correct. So it's everything except nominations, except Supreme Court, but it doesn't affect bills. So the same rules of filibuster still apply for bills, and they still, we saw with the budget, had to clear that 60 vote margin to be able to get it onto the floor and hold a vote. So it's just nominations. They can't speed anything else up.
And Republicans oppose it, even for nominations.
Even for nominations, and
so they want Democrats. If there's next time there's a Republican, if and when there's a Republican president, they want Democrats to be able to block any appointments of that Republican president? I doubt it.
I don't think so. But, when we look at the track record of who's done this and how often we've seen nominations, even to something like the district court or to lower nominations held up for other reasons, which is a lot of what was going on with the other nominations. They were holding them up to talk about Benghazi, to talk about something other than the nominee. It's not a tactic Democrats have used a lot. It's not something they've done as much. So the expectation that they had to worry about Democrats doing that whenever it was their turn, not as likely a problem for them.
No, I think the facts, not the politics, the facts speak for that Republicans brought this on themselves by their obstructionism. Now, the big question then, Ginger Gibson with us from Politico, is whether or not this coming together on the budget has changed the mood in Congress about working together and might offer some signs of hope on other issues. We'll get into that with Ginger Gibson when we come back. You see what they're up to here on the defense bill, on the budget bill, on the nominations. If you want to join the conversation, you have a question, 866-55-PRESS.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
It is possible to read the history of this country as one long struggle to extend the liberties established in our Constitution to everyone in America. In other words, who, according to our laws and culture, gets to be considered a person? The law creates legal personhood, and movements create law and change culture. So, how have the courts passed laws to shape our culture? That history goes way back before Citizens United. 1819, Dartmouth College versus Woodward, Supreme Court case, turned a corporate charter from a government-granted charter to a contract. This ruling gave corporations standing within the Constitution. 1886, Santa Clara County versus Southern Pacific Railroad. Though the court did not rule on corporate personhood, the decision was subsequently cited as a precedent to hold that a private corporation is entitled to the same 14th Amendment rights of due process and equal protection as human beings. This makes it impossible for us to make laws that treat local businesses any differently than giant multinational corporations, even if their business practices are deemed to be harmful to workers, the environment and communities, or if they have a history of violating the law. Hale versus Henkel, 1906. The court granted corporations the Fourth Amendment search and seizure protection. Dodge versus Ford Motor Company, 1919. The Michigan Supreme Court says the business corporation is organized and carried on primarily for the profit of the stockholders. Stockholder primacy is established. The purpose of the corporation, according to the court, is no longer to serve the public good, as it had been. It is now to maximize profit for shareholders above all else. Pennsylvania Coal Company versus Mahon, 1922. Corporations get the Fifth Amendment takings clause, meaning if you pass a regulation that impacts a corporation's ability to make a profit, that is deemed a taking, and they can sue for the right to future profits lost. This creates a chilling effect, and local and state governments become much more hesitant to pass laws in the public interest for fear that corporations can claim loss of potential profits that cities and states will be on the hook to pay. Buckley versus Vallejo, 1976. The Supreme Court rules that spending money to influence elections is protected under the First Amendment, in effect saying that money is speech. Citizens United versus Federal Election Commission, 2010.
Today, the Supreme Court of Chief Justice John Roberts declared that because of the alchemy of its 19th century predecessors in deciding that corporations had all the rights of people, any restrictions on how these corporate beings spend their money on political advertising are unconstitutional.
The court's ruling threatens to undermine the integrity of elected institutions across the nation. It's a rejection of the common sense of the American people.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Hey, we're talking about the Senate and Senator Sherrod Brown from Ohio, one of our best friends in the Senate. Strong, proud progressive joins us at the top of the next hour here on this Thursday edition of the Bill Press Show. In studio with us, Ginger Gibson, congressional reporter for Politico. Again, thanks for coming in, Ginger. So I've read several stories that things look more promising now on the Hill because first time in a long time, a Democrat and Republican decided we're going to sit down and work together and get something done. And Patty Murray and Paul Ryan were able to do this. Not only that, they were able to take it back and sell it to their caucuses, which wasn't automatic at all. And they got a budget deal. Not only get a budget deal, which may not be it's not the grand bargain. It's not the big deal that maybe we need, but it is a deal. It's something Republicans and Democrats both voted for in the House and in the Senate. The leadership of both parties did, except for Mitch McConnell in the Senate, and we know why. But not only that, for what it does this year, but it means that for the next 2 years, we're not going to have these end of every month fiscal crisis, right? And those last minute negotiations and deals and everything. So, people of the stories I've read is now this shows that Congress can work again. People feel good about each other again, and we can get some things done on other issues, right or wrong.
I am not a betting gal, but if I were a betting gal, I would not bet that this is going to usher in a new era of great bipartisan cooperation.
You're throwing cold water on all of this?
You know, it could.
Happy talk?
Everyone kept saying it's a great first step. It's a first step. It's a first step. But the leap to go from agreeing how to get, what is really $50 billion difference between the two of them to a middle place, which in the grand scheme of things in a $1 trillion budget is not a whole lot. 50 billion seems like a lot, but it's not in this context. To passing immigration reform or a background check or just generally maybe liking each other a little bit more is a big leap. There's a lot of space between what the budget deal is and what it would take to get some of these other things done. Could it? Absolutely. Could they have stayed in fiscal stalemate and still come to an agreement on some of the other things? Absolutely. But they had a lot of currents working against them. So they're dealing with an election year. Mm-hmm. They're dealing with division in the Republican Party about what to do about immigration. And they haven't worked those things out. And until they work those out, we're not likely to see those other bills start to move through the Congress.
Well, but there's another factor here, which is John Boehner and his willingness to challenge the Tea Party. Now, for example, you mentioned immigration reform. Every guest that we've had in from the House, every House member has said the same thing, that if there were Republicans and Democrats, if there were a vote in the full House on the comprehensive immigration reform bill that passed the Senate, it would pass in the House. There are enough Democratic and Republican votes there if John Boehner would only allow a vote. He has not, because he was afraid to stand up to the Tea Party on that and many other issues. On this budget deal, he did stand up to the Tea Party. He even attacked those outside groups that are really kind of fueling and funding the Tea Party, and he survived politically. He's still Speaker today, right? So if Boehner sees that he can do it in one case and survive politically, why wouldn't he in other cases?
This is with Boehner and the budget standing up to the Tea Party, a little bit of a chicken and the egg situation here. So did he stand up to the Tea Party and that allowed him to move forward and then everyone voted for it? Or was everyone going to vote for it, so it was already going to move to the floor, and that's why he stood up to the Tea Party?
Well, if I can, they weren't going to vote for it if he didn't call for a vote. If he didn't allow a vote.
Right. And we get the Hastert rules at play here, right? And the Hastert rules at play here with immigration. We don't, absolutely correct. As someone who watches the House very closely, I think that if it went to the floor, it would pass. Almost every single Democrat in the House would vote for it, if not every single Democrat in the House.
Yeah.
And there would be enough Republicans who would come along and vote for it as well. The question is, does it have it doesn't, we don't think, have a majority of the Republican caucus. And without a majority of the majority, that's where Boehner starts to have problems.
Well, that's what he's been hiding behind. But he has the only time this House, you know better than I. This is you cover it every day. The only time the House has been able to get anything done is when he's been willing to ignore the House, put it aside.
And that's, a lot of speculation about Boehner's future. Is he Speaker again in 2 years? Does he want to stick around? Does he get to the end of the term and start to go, I'm a lame duck, even though I haven't said it, and I'll put the bill on the floor? Speculation that once they get out of primary season, it then becomes politically advantageous for them to start voting on stuff like this. Mm-hmm. But it is all up to Boehner. He has said repeatedly he won't put the Senate bill on the floor, and his people are opposed to putting pieces on the floor for fear of a conference.
Well, I'm a hopeless optimist, so I'm going to, I'm not naive, but I hope at least I think there's more of a potential for some progress than you. I hope I'm right and you're wrong, but I'm not convinced that I'm right. Okay. Ginger Gibson, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays.
Merry Christmas. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming in today. When we come back, President Obama, 2 more days before he leaves for Hawaii. We'll tell you what he's up to today.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where that ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
Hey, hour number 3 coming up. Big news. The Senate passed the budget compromise yesterday. It already passed the House, as we know. Goes to the president for his signature. He will sign it. At the top of our next hour, Senator Sherrod Brown from Ohio will join us to tell us how he voted and whether or not there's any hope for extending those unemployment benefits early in 2014 and whether or not we hope to see a rise in the minimum wage. Senator Sherrod Brown in our third hour on our video stream at TawkrTV.
In the early 20th century, the war to end all wars didn't end war at all. It stoked the fires of change. A traumatized world was ripe for change. The world was ready for modernism. Modernists wanted to forget history, or at least reinterpret it. More than just a style, modernism applied to virtually all forms of creative expression. Innovative artists like Picasso, Escher, Dali, they all started looking at their world differently. Other artists tried painting light itself. These were the Impressionists. Surrealists went a bit further. We had entered the age of the isms: Cubism, Symbolism, Futurism, Constructivism. All these new modern ways of looking at the world blew people away. When it came to architecture, modernists were intrigued by emerging technology. Concrete, glass and steel featured heavily in their buildings. Modernists believed that they could design a better society. Ornamental indulgence was considered a frivolous waste of effort. They thought function should always dictate form, and that mankind's intelligence, creativity and capability for radical thinking should be celebrated. Take the Russian inventor Georgy Krutikov. He suggested an idea for a city held aloft by electrical currents. This at a time when there was barely enough wattage to keep the lights on. Not everything they designed was a resounding success. But you could argue modernism was the single most influential movement of the 20th century. From house music to housewares, tables and chairs to graphic design, all have been created by the aesthetics and ideas of modernism.
This is the Bill Press Show.
All right, a lot more coming ahead here on the Bill Press Show this Thursday morning. One of our favorite United States Senators, Sherrod Brown from Ohio, here at the top of the next hour to talk about what we might be able to see on the issue of extending those unemployment insurance benefits, and also on the minimum wage and other issues. And then we'll be joined by Travis Waldron, the sports editor for Think Progress, to talk about this U.S. delegation to the Sochi Winter Olympics, in addition to some other topics. President Obama sort of laying low today. He gets the daily briefing today at the White House, and then nothing else on his public schedule. Although, as David Jackson from USA Today told us a little earlier, there are rumors there will be one event today. It could be either be a presidential news conference or the signing of the budget bill, which was passed by the Senate yesterday. Just checked, nothing yet from the White House. Expect to hear from them very soon of one other event on the schedule for today. Jay Carney has called his press briefing for 2 o'clock this afternoon. We'll be back, hour number 3, with the Bill Press Show this Thursday morning, so stick around.
This is the Bill Press Show. Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
The Fed says it's going to scale back its stimulus bond buying, and the Dow reacts, bouncing up almost 300 points. Economic recovery is here. Good morning, everybody. Good to have you here this morning for this hour number 3 of the Bill Press Show on your local progressive talk radio station. Good morning, good morning, good morning, all across this great land of ours. Thanks for tuning in. And also, those of you watching the video stream on TawkrTV, we welcome you as well on your desktop, your laptop, your iPad, your iPhone, or whatever. Here we are all together for hour number 3 of our town hall meeting of the day, Thursday, December 19. Lots to talk about, lots going on here in Washington, around the country, and around the globe. We'll tell you all about it. You tell us what you think about it. 866-55-PRESS is the toll-free number. Join us and send us your comments on Twitter at BP Show and Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. The team is in place today. Peter Ogburn.
Hey.
All decked out. A nice Carol Press scarf.
That's right. It's cold in here.
It is cold in here. That's why I got mine on, too.
Representing.
Elisa Murphy here. Good morning, Elisa.
Good morning.
With Alicia Cruz there on the phones and Cyprian Bolding on the video cam this morning as well. We're still kind of burned that all of us went out and bought Mega Millions. At least I went out and bought my Mega Millions tickets and didn't win. I thought all you had to do to win was buy a ticket.
It's a little harder than that, apparently.
I guess it is.
That's
You got to
garbage.
pick the right numbers, or the machine has to pick the right numbers for you.
I will say, I think I found earlier today, the flaw in your logic.
Yes.
Is that you do the quick pick. You let the machine pick.
Yeah.
You got to, there's a strategy to picking your numbers, Bill.
I wouldn't know where to start to pick the numbers.
Yeah.
Or,
think birthdays, anniversaries, things like that.
Too complicated for me.
It's all right.
quick pick. At any rate, but that's what happened down in Georgia. The person who bought the winning ticket, did go to family birthdays, as the head of the Georgia lottery tells her secret.
They were a combination of family birthdays and her family's lucky number 7.
There it is, family's lucky number. So she's the winner in Georgia. The store, however, in Georgia, and the store in California, San Jose, California, that sold, they're also the winners. The owners of those stores that sold the winning ticket, they got $1 million. The guy out in San Jose, California, Jenny's Gift and News Shop or something like that. It's really fun. It's been there around for a long time, but this guy, the present owner, bought the store 4 months ago. Just 4 months ago, he sold this winning ticket, and he gets $1 million. And he is a very, very happy camper this morning, as he told reporters yesterday.
Today, very good day. I'm so excited. We got, I win $1 million too.
That laugh.
That laugh is what I'm saying. Yeah, he's saying, I won $1 million and you didn't.
If you ever want to know what laughing all the way to the bank sounds like,
here it is. Yeah. Heard that phrase, laughing all the way to the bank. Indeed, he did so. Again, just for selling that winning ticket. Not bad. So now we're back to square one with the Mega Millions, huh?
Yeah.
Let it build up again.
Start fresh, and then wait till it gets high, and then buy
we'll all
another
be suckers and go out and buy tickets again. Yes, indeed. Good to have you with us today. The House has been out all week, but the Senate still in session with a lot of work to do. And yesterday, they passed the budget bill 64-36. Joining us this morning, was not entirely happy with that budget. Our good friend from the state of Ohio, Senator Sherrod Brown. Hey, Senator, good to have you with us this morning.
Good to be back. Thanks, Bill.
How you doing?
Everything good. Sorry, I'm not in the studio with you like I get to do sometimes, but
well, we always
we both look better this way,
right? Always good to have you in studio and by phone when we can't get you in studio. So, Senator, first of all, are you going to get home for Christmas, or are you guys here for the whole haul?
I assume we're here for another day or two. I don't know. We still have to do work to do. I mean, we've got to. Yeah. There's as you know, there were more blocked nominees. The Republicans blocked more Obama appointees by filibuster than all the presidents in the past combined, all his predecessors combined, and we're trying to make up for lost time after changing the rules and getting people confirmed. So we've got to do that. We got to do a defense bill. We did the budget yesterday. So some things are happening, and the Senate will work when you tell them to work, and you don't have somebody blocking everything by the rules.
What should we think about this budget, Senator?
Well, you should think that it's going to add economic growth 0.5%, which sort of begs the question: if we eliminated sequester entirely, it would mean significantly more economic growth. And you saw Ben Bernanke's comments yesterday that the fundamental reason we're not growing more is because of, he didn't say it this way, but because of Republican intransigence, that the insistence always, we're shutting the government down if you don't cut spending. And he pointed out the hundreds of thousands of public jobs lost as the private sector job growth is gone all right. The public sector job loss has been such a drag on the economy, and that comes from a Republican appointee, Bernanke. So, but the budget fixes a little bit of that. It goes generally in the right direction. I'm very unhappy that it didn't have unemployment insurance extension. So 40,000 people in my state lose their unemployment at the end of the year, and the House has already gone home, and it's going to be another 80,000 during the course of the year if we don't fix it. We've gotten a commitment from Majority Leader Reid to do the Jack Reid has been sort of the leader in this from Rhode Island, getting the first week order of business is do unemployment extension, and just force the issue till we can pass it, and just keep trying until we do.
Are Republicans? I mean, have they lined up in opposition to that? Are they the ones that are blocking it, or any Republicans breaking ranks there?
Well, there's one Republican co-sponsor, a senator from Nevada. A Republican from Nevada is a co-sponsor. We hope he starts bringing more people with him. But when Jack Reid has gone to the floor and tried to move it, there's always been an objection. So, these people, they forget that this is insurance. You pay in when you're working, and you get assistance when you're not, just like Social Security's insurance and Medicare. They just don't much. The Republican philosophy has really become opposition to social insurance. They just think it's everybody for himself or herself, and caring less about the herself and the himself. And they really don't believe. So many Republicans now, the mainstream of their party really doesn't believe in social insurance.
I'd be willing to bet, Senator, that some of those people who are going to lose their unemployment insurance happen to live in red states, too,
Well, just like the number of people that, when they're expanding Medicaid in California and Ohio and New York and Massachusetts and some other states and Kentucky, if you live in Florida and you're making $9 an hour, you're out of luck. You're not going to get Medicaid. And all because one guy is trying to make a political point, the governor of Texas, and state after state after state. That's the case. Tragic.
Did the Fed do the right thing yesterday?
Yeah, probably. I think that the economy is showing signs of getting better. I think it's a question of what speed they taper off or taper down, and I think that's now no longer Bernanke's decision. It will be Yellen's decision. I assume we're going to confirm her today. I hope so, and then she will be making these decisions. But she's pretty close to him in the philosophy of sort of hawkishness or dovishness on these kinds of issues.
One other labor-related issue is the minimum wage, Senator. This is something you've talked about a lot. Not on the table right now, but is that something that do you think we'll get to early in 2014?
Yeah, I've asked Reid. A number of us have asked Reid, the Majority Leader, to move quickly on minimum wage. Just no reason not to. There's a couple of points to make on this, why this is even more important than other years. It hasn't been raised since 2007. President Bush signed it. Got a lot of pressure from the public, and why he moved on it, because he's not a guy that particularly ever advocated for a minimum wage increase, but we had a Democratic House and Senate. We ended up getting Republican votes because they saw the train was leaving the station. They felt a lot of public pressure. But this one does two things that we haven't done in the past for a long time. One, it builds a cost of living adjustment into it, so we don't have to do this every year or 2 or 3 or 5.
Very important.
To my knowledge, that's never been done. The other thing it hasn't been done since the early 90s. That is, it raises the tipped minimum wage. The tipped minimum wage right now is $2.13 an hour, believe it or not. Hasn't been raised since the early 90s. And it's not just the waitress in the diner, it's also the guy that does the bags at the airport. In many cases, the woman that pushes the wheelchair at the airport. Those are often minimum wage, sub-minimum wage jobs because you're supposed to tip.
Yeah.
And they don't do very well with tips a lot of times, depending on the time of year and the generosity of the people they're working with and all that. And And sometimes people don't even know to tip. I think people in those when you see somebody being pushed in a wheelchair by an attendant at the airport, they don't work for the airlines. The airlines have washed their hands of it and subcontracted it in most cases, and people don't know to tip in those cases. And my cousin met somebody who was volunteering in a homeless shelter and met somebody living in a homeless shelter who's working one of these jobs. If that's not incredible.
Wow. But so would the bill provide parity for tip workers?
No, I'm sorry, I didn't finish. Yeah, I apologize. The bill would, within 3 or 4 years, bring the tip minimum wage up to 70% of minimum wage. I understand why it could be a little bit less, but it will not immediately go to 70 because that would be a little bit of a sharp change for businesses. But it gets it up by 2016. So if we pass this bill as is, the minimum wage will be increased 90 cents on the day it's signed, 90 cents a year later, 90 cents a year after that. The tip wage will go from $2.13 to, I believe, $4 or $5, and then it will, over the next 4 years, get up to 70% of the $10.10.
Talking to Senator Sherrod Brown from Ohio here on this Thursday edition of the Bill Press Show. Senator, we usually most often talk about economic issues and labor-related issues. I would like to get your take. This week, there were two major developments with NSA and this whole phone spying program. One, a federal judge who said it's likely unconstitutional, and then yesterday the release of this report by the panel of intelligence experts appointed by President Obama, who were also very critical of the program and said it ought to be reined in quite substantially. Is this a new day for intelligence reform in the Congress, do you think, or potentially?
It's certainly a new day to the country. I don't know if Congress is hearing it yet. I know some of my colleagues have heard it and are working hard on it. Can't tell yet. I remember when I was in the House in 2001, or maybe it was 2002 by the time it passed with the Patriot Act. And
yep.
I voted against it, but I remember just the sentiment of just the feeling in the body, and I think those kinds of fears have subsided. I mean, there's not that kind of there's always fear among people, and we do need, obviously, our national security is paramount, and that's our jobs fundamentally, principally here. But it also is finding the balance on civil liberties. We didn't find it back then in 2002, for sure. I'm hopeful that cooler heads prevail now, and and we also know that presidents almost always, regardless of party overreach on these things, it's just the tendency of the executive branch. And I think the president has such a heavy weight on his shoulders that he's got to protect the American public, that sometimes they probably do things that they wouldn't have done maybe before they saw that they're in that awesome position. So I have some empathy for the president on it, but I think that they've got to be more careful than they have been.
And finally, one of your colleagues, my neighbor here on Capitol Hill, Senator Max Baucus, is going to be our new ambassador to China. You've been very involved in China trade relations on that issue. I just was looking at your website again this morning. Senator, what's your advice to Ambassador Baucus?
Well, he knows he's worked on these. First of all, congratulations to him. And he was wrapping up his Senate career. He would have been out of office a year from now, right. And I understand why he did this. He likes to talk about Senator Mansfield, one of his predecessors, who, after leaving the Senate, became Jimmy Carter's ambassador to Japan. So China's even more important to us today, probably than Japan was then, as important as Japan has been. So it's a big deal for the country. I think his skill and his expertise and his long experience on China trade and China currency, while I don't agree with him oftentimes on the position he ultimately takes, I think he will see things now and really kind of redouble his efforts and our country's efforts on forcing the currency issue on the Chinese, that they've got to start playing fair. I think when you're on the ground there, you probably see it even more intently than I've seen it so far from here.
Any problem getting confirmed?
None. I would think there's no problem. They rarely. The only time I'd not known this before, but the last time there had been a sitting House or Senate member not confirmed by the Senate was around the Civil War, until the Republicans refused to confirm Mel Watt, the African-American congressman from North Carolina, for the housing job. So, but Mel Watt, there's other issues there. I mean, there shouldn't have been other issues. Mel Watt should have been confirmed easily, but Baucus the Republicans like Baucus, and I don't see any problem at all.
All right. Well, Senator, Merry Christmas to you. Happy holidays. Hope you get out of here soon after doing some more good work in the Senate, and have a great holiday back in Ohio.
Thanks, and to you too, Bill. Thank you.
We'll see you early in 2014 in studio. All right, great. Senator Sherrod Brown from Ohio. Great progressive, great liberal, great friend of the program. Great senator.
This is the Bill Press Show. seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
All right, 26 minutes after the hour in the sports world. Lots going on. Travis Waldron from Think Progress Sports joins us in studio in the next half hour. On the political front, a little interesting stuff going on as well. As we just mentioned to Senator Sherrod Brown, one of his colleagues, United States Senator from Montana, Max Baucus, veteran member of the Senate and the House before that, will be named by President Obama his new ambassador to China, our new ambassador to China, I should say. Senator Baucus has already announced he's not going to run for re-election, so he would be out at the end of next year anyhow. This means that the governor of Montana will be able to choose a successor to Senator Baucus. He's expected to nominate the lieutenant governor of Montana, who would then run for Max Baucus' seat a year from now. At any rate, I just got to tell you, Senator Baucus is and his wife are neighbors of ours on Capitol Hill. So about 10 days ago, Carol came upstairs to me and said, there's a guy who just called and he needs to talk to you immediately. He's from the State Department. I said, what's that about? So on the phone, she said, no, he's out front. He's in front of the house. He was actually on the street in the rain under his umbrella. And he came in and he said he wanted to do a little background check on a neighbor of ours who happened to be Senator Baucus. And I said, what's going on? The guy wouldn't tell me. But I figured out at the time, and the next day I saw Senator Baucus and I said, Max, somebody from the State Department came to do a little background check on you. State Department, Max, the only vacancy that I know is China. Congratulations, Mr. Ambassador. Well, he wouldn't say anything, wouldn't confirm, wouldn't deny, and sure enough, that's what it is. Good for him. Congratulations, Senator Baucus. Congratulations to our neighbor. It's a very, very important post in terms of trade relations with China. Senator Baucus would do an outstanding job. Good man for the job.
This is the Bill Press Show. This is the Bill Press Show.
It is indeed 33 minutes after the hour. Here we go, the Bill Press Show on Thursday, December 19. Brought to you today by Ulico Incorporated. Good men and women of Ulico under President Ed Smith. Proudly serving the union workplace now for more than 85 years, providing specialty insurance, risk solutions, investment products, and services, all to help those unions function better and invest their money better. You can find out more about their good work at their website, ulico.com, ULLICO.com. In the world of sports, Majority Leader Harry Reid in the Senate making big news today on that and other sports topics. Travis Waldron from Think Progress Sports joins us again in studio this morning. Hi, Travis. You're looking good.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, very colorful outfit this morning. He even got his tie on this morning.
I'm telling you, yeah.
Yeah,
usually there's not a tie.
Must be a big day at the office at the Center for American
It's
Progress.
just to come see you guys. You know, I wanted to look my best.
Oh, very good. Well, you do.
And it's a birthday present for my mom, so you know.
Oh, nice.
If she's watching, then
hey, Mom.
I'm wearing what you got me for my birthday.
Isn't that nice? Yeah. This once. So, Senator Reid, Leader Reid, has said he has joined a parade of top officials, government officials, who have said that the Washington football team should change its name.
Big news.
It is.
He's now the top 3 Democrats in Washington are all on the record as opposed to the name, or at least that they should consider changing it. And I thought he made a good point. The president, Nancy Pelosi, and now Harry Reid.
Yeah.
And I thought he made a good point saying that Dan Snyder's being really short-sighted about this, because he is.
Yeah.
It's easy to say we're not going to do this ever. Well, if it keeps going the way it's
Change
going,
happens.
You're probably going to do it at some point.
Right. I also thought that he sort of summed up what's wrong with it when he said, just think about it. You would never have a team by the name of Blackskins.
Right. And
Washington Blackskins. Nobody would even consider it.
But even if we had a new team, let's say Washington had just gotten a football team, and we tried to name it the Redskins, no one would go for that.
No. Right.
It lasts purely because they did it in 1935 or whenever they did it, and it's just been here forever, and that's how we know it. But it doesn't change the fact that maybe it's wrong.
He also pointed out that Washington and other cities have changed the names of teams. It's not the end of the world, right?
Right.
Fans do get used to it. They do accept it. They do buy new stuff, right?
I do wonder, though, if part of it is that he used the Wizards example, I think.
Yeah.
And I wonder if part of the fear of changing the Redskins' name is because the name change for the Wizards went so horribly.
It really did.
Like, Wizards is not a good name.
Right. It's really not.
And
well, Bullets was a worse name.
Right. It especially at the time with all because there was so much violence going on in D.C. too. And Abe Pollin made that change. Some people say because of that. Others say for different reasons. But, I think it's that's something that people are worried about, I think, is if we change it, what are we going to change it to? And is it going to be something that, we can still identify with the way that DC identifies with the Redskins? Because I think the football team is the one team here that people truly, that like actual DC people, not necessarily the transient community, but the people that have lived here for a long time. I think that the Redskins are the team that they identify with the most, that kind of feels the most theirs, I guess.
Yeah, DC's
you see more signs of it. I mean, in terms of cars driving around with these stupid flags on them and all that stuff.
DC's not a great sports town. It's a big football town.
Right.
It's a big Redskins town.
They're the only team they follow even when they're not any good.
Right.
Which, thankfully, because they haven't been very good for a long time.
True.
Other than last year. But
well, good for Harry Reid for jumping on the bandwagon there. Also, I wanted to ask you, we were laughing earlier this morning. Here's a guy that nobody ever heard of and nobody would ever have heard of. Barry Hinson, basketball coach for Southern Illinois University. I mean, hello, right? But they lost to Murray State, I guess, which was the end of the line for this coach, right? I mean, this was it.
He had one of those breakdowns.
There's no shame in losing to Murray State.
There's no
my
shame
Kentucky
in
pride showing out. Murray State's been a very good basketball program in the last 10 years or so.
Well, not for this coach.
But he didn't like it.
He didn't like losing to Murray State. He lost his patience with this and lashed out, Barry Hinson, at his players. He said, my wife could play better than they could. Here he is.
We made 3 turnovers tonight where we just came down and threw them the ball. I swear I thought one time that one of our players said Merry Christmas. I thought it was a gift.
Yeah, that's actually where he's talking about the Christmas gifts.
Right.
Not his wife. We'll get back to his wife in a second. But yeah, he said it was like, here, you want the ball? Here, you want Merry Christmas. You want the ball? We'll give it right to you.
And he's in like this flop sweat after the press conference, and he's angry, and he's doing things like he's yelling and saying, you know what you do with a dog when they misbehave? You bad boy. Bad boy, and that's what I'm going to have to do with these players. I mean, I'm not going to have to hit him, but I'm going to put him on the treadmill.
Talking about snipers?
Yeah, he said because his players were falling down all over the court. I looked around. I thought Navy SEAL Team 6 was up in the rafters, shooting my players down. Snipers everywhere.
They're the best.
He was just manic, and the press goes, great.
Yeah, it's something else. It goes down. We were talking before. It goes down with some of those great press conference rants like Jim Mora's playoffs and Denny Green's
the Bears
we let him off the hook.
Yeah.
And it's like the best off-field things. You always remember these press conferences when the coaches just blow up.
So here he is with his at least if we can, his wife, right?
And let's talk about our big guys. 2 for 11. How can you go 2 for 11? My wife can score more than 2 buckets on 11 shots because I know my wife will at least shot fake 1 time. But those guys aren't listening. They're uncoachable right now.
I love it. My wife! Even my wife! And they're uncoachable right now. All right. So
the other thing that I think he might have gotten out of line on, because this is colorful and sort of taking his team to task, he calls them mama's boys and calls them lazy and calls out individual players.
All right, which gets to my question. How do you walk back in the locker room after this?
I don't know. I mean, I think it, how do you go anywhere?
You got a little problem, don't you think?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's one of those questions of when, like Peter said, are you calling out specific guys to the media and kind of throwing your team under the bus, or is it you?
Right.
Like how much of this was you?
Exactly.
It was your coaching, and obviously there's an extent to where you can coach guys all you want, and if they're not going to do it, they're not going to do it, and you're not going to win. But some of it always comes back to the coach, and that's especially at the college level. To see these guys who are out here at Southern Illinois playing basketball, putting a lot of time in, it does concern, are you throwing your team under the bus when maybe, you're not looking in the mirror a little bit?
Well, I never played high school or college sports, but isn't this the kind of stuff that a coach says to a team in the locker room?
Yes, definitely.
Okay. Yeah, but not in public.
Right. Well, I never played on a team where the coach really had to go face the media afterward. I was done before that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you would expect to hear a lot of this kind of stuff in the locker room, definitely. I think anybody who's been in a locker room has heard something like this from their coach. But yeah,
and also when you talk about individual players, I've also been a part of a situation where a coach would say, "Hey, can we talk for a second?" and pull you aside and say, "What the hell happened out there?" You know, and talk to you privately and not make a spectacle and draw all this attention.
But you know, at the same time too, hopefully he knows his team.
Yeah,
and maybe this is what his team needed.
Yeah,
and maybe they needed just a little bit of public shaming.
Is his job on the line after this?
I'm not familiar enough with Southern Illinois basketball to know that. I doubt this rant is going to put his job on the line. I don't think there was anything quite bad enough in there for somebody to fire him. I mean, the Eastern Michigan football coach who the audio leaked of him using gay slurs and you know, calling his team really terrible things.
Well, who was the guy that the notoriously
Bobby Knight?
Bob Knight.
Yeah, it was notorious.
Bobby Knight. And some other guy a couple of years ago was throwing a chair.
Throwing basketballs at his player.
Well, that was Mike Rice from Rutgers. But he also used gay slurs, which I mean, if you do that to your players, you don't need to be around them anymore.
Well, think of it this way: this guy could have put Southern Illinois on the map,
right?
I mean, how many times have we ever talked about Southern Illinois?
I'll tell you what, I want to watch that next press conference.
Definitely.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Now, when we get back. The Sochi Olympics. People were afraid that the United States was not going to send any delegation at all because it had not been announced. It has been announced, and we're not sure Vladimir Putin's very happy with it. Travis Waldron here with us from the Think Progress Sports Blog.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show. This is the Bill Press Show.
All right, 13 minutes now before the top of the hour. It's Thursday morning, December 19. The Bill Press Show and our studio on Capitol Hill, and we cover the waterfront here. You know, the economy, politics, fashion, music, and sports. We got it all. Fashion statement, Travis Waldron, actually, in the studio with us this morning to talk sports. It was just a couple of days ago that Evan McMorris Santoro from BuzzFeed at the White House briefing asked Jay Carney, he said, look, the Sochi Olympics are coming up. We knew 6 months ahead of time who was going to lead the delegation to the Summer Olympics. It was going to be the First Lady of the United States, and here's who the delegation was. And we've heard nothing about will there be an official U.S. delegation to the Sochi Olympics, and who is going to lead it? This was, I think, just Monday he asked this question. And then the next day, delegation comes out. Quite a surprising lineup, huh?
It's a big statement. Having Billie Jean King and the hockey player, who I don't honestly know how to pronounce her last name.
I don't
either. I think it's Caitlin Cahow, I think.
Yeah.
That are both openly gay. And both have done some activism. Cahow just came out in November, but did it in a way that was kind of a statement in and of itself. And, Billie Jean King obviously has been open for, I guess, 30-something years now, and has been a big activist for women's equality, but also LGBT equality. And, to send them to Russia as part of the delegation is a huge move from the president. I think a very strong symbol of, we may not be a perfect country on LGBT rights yet. We may not be all the way there, but we're trying to move in that direction, and we're trying to show that example to the world, especially a place like Russia where, we don't know yet under this new law how LGBT folks are going to be treated. And so I think it's, just a really powerful move from the president, even more powerful than, not sending a delegation would have been.
With the people who are on the delegation, it's also significant those who are not on the delegation. No president of the United States, no first lady of the United States, no vice president of the United States, no sitting cabinet member of the United States.
Which is, Obama hasn't been he didn't go to Vancouver in 2010 or London, but, he sent Biden to Vancouver and Michelle and the kids to London. So I think it is significant that, kind of the administration is saying, we don't want to be a part of this. And I'm not sure that's necessarily just the LGBT things. I think there's been so much focus on the LGBT rights front in Russia. There's also a lot of other human rights concerns in terms of how they've treated journalists who've exposed some of the problems and the corruption around the Olympics, how they've treated people who lived in the area where they just kind of relocated them and tore down homes and tore down communities, which is, not to totally blame that on Russia, because that happens almost everywhere where these events take place.
I remember there's stories like that out of Beijing, too.
Right, and South Africa with the World Cup, and it's happened in Brazil, too. But, I think there are a lot of concerns about this, and I think it's not just a statement from Obama and the United States against Russia. I think it's a statement to the IOC, too, to say that, look, we're if you're not going to do anything, we're at least going to do something that's symbolically powerful.
Earlier in the week, we had talked about whether or not this Olympics would have their Black Fist moment, the John Carlos, Tommy Smith moment, and this could very well be it. Can you imagine the opening ceremonies and they're there and they're walking in, or they're leading it, and that's a hell of a statement to make for the world to see.
So officially, Putin has said, well, we have our policy, but our policy is not going to be enforced or is not going to be in play in these Olympics, right? We're kind of going to give a free zone.
It's like they're kind of going to draw a circle around Sochi and say, we're not going to do it. We're not going to enforce this law here, which I think is, great for the Olympics. But then what happens afterward?
Right.
There's still going to be LGBT people in Russia when the Olympics are gone.
Yeah. Do you think they'll march in with a rainbow flag?
Wouldn't that be funny?
I don't think so. Yeah. I don't think that'll happen. But
I mean, that would be great.
I think it would be great. I think what would be even better than that would be there are going to be at least a few openly gay athletes at this Olympics. There's a speed skater from New Zealand who's openly gay. And, seeing them, I think this is when Obama first came out about this back in the fall and said...
Obama came out?
Man, he really has evolved.
Breaking news on the Bill Press Show.
Breaking news. Boy, he really swung all the way in the other direction, didn't he? Man, when you evolve, you really evolve.
Don't tell Duck Dynasty. That's another story.
But when he first made a statement about this back in the fall, and he said, what I hope is that we send athletes over there, LGBT athletes who win medals. And that will be the big statement. And I think if we see that, that's where the statement actually comes, is to say, look, gay people can play sports and do it just fine. And if they can do that, well, why can't? And I think that's a lesson. That's not just a lesson to Russia. I think that's still a lesson for a lot of Americans too.
Yeah, absolutely. People around the world and people in this country.
Right.
They can serve in the House. They can serve in the Senate.
Right. They're people.
They can dunk basketball.
Right. Yeah, right. It's like they can do all the things that all of you straight people have been doing.
Drive buses. They can lead companies. And
right.
And they can play sports.
Exactly.
And they can win medals, and that would be great.
Yeah, I would love to see it.
Right. Travis, always good to have you in studio. We always run out of time before we run out of topics, but so thanks for coming in. And
thanks for
Merry Christmas. Say hello to all of our friends over at Center for American Progress.
Will do.
At particularly Think Progress. And we're particularly, we're still praying for Igor's cat.
Yeah. Prayers for Judy.
Prayers for Judy.
Yeah, that's the hashtag, I think, the official hashtag.
So when I come back, I'll be here with a parting shot coming up next.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
right, fasten your seatbelt, friends. We have seldom seen such a sudden reversal of public policy. You know, a couple of days ago, in response to my questions down at the White House, the president refused to release the report on NSA spying activities prepared by that 5-person panel he had appointed. As part of the commitment to transparency, the White House said they were going to release the report, but not until January or February. But then yesterday, full retreat. 180-degree U-turn. President Obama met with that spying panel, and the White House reversed itself and made the report public, and it's a blockbuster. The panel's not only sharply critical of what NSA was doing with amassing all of our phone records, it said the practice must stop. There is no justification for it. And coming on top of a judge's ruling earlier this week that NSA's program was likely unconstitutional, this is a major setback for the NSA. Now, the only question is, when will the White House thank Edward Snowden for blowing the whistle on the NSA and telling us all about it? Hey, folks, Terry O'Sullivan, president of the Laborers Union, joins us tomorrow on the program. So go out and have a great Thursday and come back here and see us again tomorrow morning.
This is the Bill Press Show.